am excited to be starting a new YouTube series based on my latest book, Cling, choosing a lifestyle of intimacy with God. People ask, what made me write about this one word, cling? It captivated me years ago as I studied Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses is giving instruction to God's chosen people, the people of Israel, before they enter the promised land. And he's telling them how they ought to live. And this is what he says in Deuteronomy 10:20. You shall fear the Lord your God. You shall serve him and cling to him, and you shall swear by his name. And in Deuteronomy 13:4, you shall follow the Lord your God and fear him, and you shall keep his commandments, listen to his voice, serve him, and cling to him. These are commands from God, right? Through Moses. So we would expect God to say, serve him, follow him, listen to his voice, keep his commandments. All of these commands can be satisfied from a distance. I can even follow from a distance as long as I'm headed in the right direction. But there's that one word that's different. Cling. It's personal, intimate. It puts me in God's face, glued to him. That word jumped off the page years ago when I read it and became a prayer. Lord, help me to cling to you. It doesn't mean I've been faithful to always cling. Oh, I know what it looks like when I'm not clinging. But through the years, through changing seasons and trying times, God has been faithful to answer that prayer, teaching me how to cling to him. And I've seen how faithfully he shows up when I do. Chapter 4 of the book Cling is called Knowing God Intimately. We can't cling to God apart from clinging to his word. We can't cling to God without knowing him through his word. So in the book, I use examples from the Bible as to how we can learn the heart of God and the ways of God through his word. Here on YouTube, I was moved to take it a step further and walk that out through a study of a book of the Bible. And I wanted to do an Old Testament book. People tend to shy away from the Old Testament. They say the God of the Old Testament is distant and harsh. It's hard to understand. And what's the deal with all the animal sacrifices? First, it's the same God. Old Testament and New. Jesus and the Father are one. And you learn more about Jesus and understand more of what he's saying in the Gospels when you know the Old Testament. The Old Testament is full of types and shadows and prophecies fulfilled in Jesus. But also the Old Testament is just so good. I love the Old Testament. I love what God reveals about himself in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, we learn about God in a unique way over hundreds of years as he interacts with people who are flawed, just like you and me. We see not a God who is distant, but a God who wants to draw his people close. Remember, the Old Testament is where we find that beautiful word, cling. So we'll be going through the book of 1 Samuel. This is the book where a woman, Hannah, prays to God for a son, Samuel, and he becomes a great prophet in Israel. This is the book where the people of Israel decide it's not enough to have God be ruler over them. They want a king like the other nations. So we see the first king of Israel, Saul. This is the book where a shepherd boy, David, is anointed by God as the next king of Israel. And we see that shepherd boy take on the giant Goliath. And this is the book where David is on the run from King Saul, who wants to take David's life. Many of David's psalms were written during this period in 1 Samuel. We'll be doing one chapter a week, and we'll be looking at who's clinging to God and who's not, and what does that look like. And we'll be focusing on God, what he reveals about himself, how we can know him better through this book and cling to him. Come study with me, 1 Samuel. I'm already praying for God to meet us in a special way and give us steadfast hearts to cling to him.